What is the Ayin Hara? Is it real? And how to prevent it? Where do we find Ayin Hara? Avram, you have a paper? It's actually mentioned in Tractate Bava Metzia. Before we get to our papers, we're not up to the papers yet. It's one paper with two sides. If you look in Tractate Bava Metzia, page 107, the Talmud tells us, Tishan v'tesha b'ayin ra v'echad b'derech eretz. 99 out of 100 people die from the Ayin Hara, and one only dies b'derech eretz. Sonia, you understand this statement? What does that mean? 99 out of 100 people, says the Talmud, the Bava Metzia 107, die with the evil eye, and one dies b'derech eretz. So Rashi explains, 99 people die b'ayin hara, and only 1% die bismano. What does that mean? How can someone die before his time? So Talmud makes an amazing statement that 99 out of 100 people die before their time through ayin hara, and only 1% die b'derech eretz in their time. What does that mean? How could anybody die before their time? And what is this evil eye?
Better than that, 99% too.
99 out of 100 ba'ayin ra, echad b'derech eretz. 99 out of 100 die with the evil eye, through the evil eye, and only 1% die bismano. And other 99% die ba'ayin ra, lo bismano. What the heck does that mean, Avram? Stay tuned, okay? Let's take a look at our source sheets now from yesterday's Parsha, Avram. Wasn't that long ago? Yesterday's Parsha, where it says side number 1, Sonia. You see side number 1 or you don't? Side number 1.
2, 1 says 1.
Side number 1 was yesterday's reading. You with me on side number 1? Everyone have a paper, right? Yitzchak, you have a paper? Yeah. Side number 1. Parshas Kisisa, Pasuk Gimel. See, there's a yellow line there. Pasuk Gimel, I think it's. So this is yesterday's reading in Pasuk Gimel. This is getting the second tablets. God tells Moses in Pasuk Gimel, V'ish lo yala imach, no man should come up with you. V'gam ish al yer b'chol ahar, and no man should appear in front of the mountain. Gam atzon v'habakar el yiru amul aharahu. Moshe, to get the second tablets, has to be a solitary man, meeting his creator in total solitary. I think there's a song by Neil Diamond, Solitary Man. Neil Diamond, he grew up in Brighton Beach, not far from where I grew up, and he must have learned this pasuk, and he wrote a song, Solitary Man. Moshe Rabbeinu, to get the second tablets, was a solitary man. Why? Look at this incredible Rashi, Alfie. Rashi Gimel. See the bottom of the right side, Rashi Gimel? Says, V'ish, it's highlighted, Alfie. V'ish lo yala imach. No man should come up with you to receive what? The second tablets. Why? What does Rashi say, Yehuda? See Rashi Gimel? Harishaynais, the first tablets, al yedei shehoya b'teshuot v'kolot v'koholot. The first tablets was given through a tremendous public relations. Thunder, lightning, a tremendous sound and light show when God gave the first tablets. Millions of people were there, and God wowed us with a tremendous sound and light show. Sholto behen ayin ra. Yiddish Avram. Who broke the first tablets? I would say Moses, but Rashi doesn't agree. Rashi says the first tablets were destroyed by the evil eye. Say what? Rabbi Yaakov, that's what Rashi says. The first tablets were given kolot to koholot, millions of people there, tremendous sound and light show. What a production.
Opening night at the Hollywood.
Sholto behen ayin ra. You hear this? Surely. The reason the first tablets were broken was because the evil eye got a hold of it. Ein lecha yofa min atzniut. There's nothing more beautiful than what? What does tzniut mean? It doesn't mean only dress. Of course it means dress, Alfie. It means much more than that. Tzniut is a way of life. We'll talk about it. Not just in dress, in behavior. So God says, with the second tablets, I'm not taking any chances. You hear this, Rabbi Abraham? So therefore, the second tablets, no sound and light show, no assembly, no multitudes of people, one human being in solitary, in solitaire with his creator. What does that mean? The Ayin Hara from whom? Alfie, what is the evil eye that was able to destroy God's tablets? What Erev Rav? They were there. So who's the evil eye from, Abraham? From the UN and the EU. God was putting on such a tremendous public relations event that the United Nations says, what are we, chopped liver? We're also God's children. And God doesn't turn nature topsy-turvy for us. So, bizarre as it sounds, the United Nations and the EU put an evil eye on the Ten Commandments, and therefore they were busted. What a powerful message. Didn't God know that? Of course he knew that. What's the message? Ein lecha yofa min atzniut. There's nothing more beautiful than what? Modest behavior, low key. Don't draw too much attention to yourself. Pretty amazing Rashi over here. You'd ask me, Alfie, I'd say Moses broke the tablets, right? But Rashi says, no, it was the Ayin Hara that caused the tablets to be broken. Wow. So what is this incredible force that we call what? The Ayin Hara. So if you look at my handwriting there on the bottom of the page where it says because, you see it says because? Because Hashem gives us gifts that we don't deserve as a freebie. But if we show off, if we boast to others who don't have this gift, it can cause them anguish. And they say, why does he deserve it and not I, and I don't? Incredibly, the power of words is such that it can cause God to reconsider the free gifts that he has bestowed on that person who brags about it. What does that mean?
It's my car and his driveway.
What does that mean? How can a person give another person ayin hara? Ad kedei kach that the United Nations put the evil eye on what? On God's holy tablets, and therefore they were destroyed. Now, this evil eye is actually codified in Shulchan Aruch, Alfie. It's not an old wives' tale. It's codified in Shulchan Aruch. Where? Turn over to side 2, please. Side 2, Hilchas Kriyas Sefer Torah. Hilchas Kriyas Sefer Torah. You see that? Halacha Vav. They have it? It's highlighted. Halacha Vav and Kriyas Sefer Torah, the Shulchan Aruch. This is the Mechaber talking, Rabbi Yosef Cairo. Halacha Vav, Yecholim likro shnei achim ze achazeh. Mitzad halacha, the Gabbai can call up 2 brothers, Ya'amod, Yankel Shmerel ben Avraham, one after the other. V'haben acharav. Mitzad halacha, the Gabbai can call up 2 brothers, one after the other, and he can call up a son after the father, but ve'ein manichim, and we don't allow it, even though technically you can call up 2 brothers, one after the other, and you can call up a father and a son, one after the other. Ya'amod. Ve'ein manichim. We don't allow him to do it, Avram. Why? No, tell me why. Ella, b'shvil Ayin Hara. The Ayin Hara has been codified in Shulchan Aruch. Wow. The Ayin Hara affects halacha. And it goes further. Afilum echad hu shvi. Even if one brother of the father gets shvi, and the other brother of the son gets maftir, lo yikru hasheni bishmo b'shem Ayin Hara. You hear this? You can't call up the father or the son or the brother, even from Shvi to Maftir, even though there's a Kaddish in between. Isn't there a Kaddish Avram, right, after Shvi? Right. Doesn't matter. You can't call up the father and the son, even one gets Shvi, one gets Maftir, 2 brothers, because we're afraid of what? The Ayin Hara. Now look at Be'er Heitev, Avram. See Be'er Heitev, Halacha Hey? Bear Hatev, or you don't see that? It's Bear Hatev there. I underlined it. Ayin Hara, Hu Adin Avu Ben Beno. Not just a father and a son. You understand? So you can't call up a grandfather and a grandson. You can't call up, Yiddish Your Honor, you can't call them up one after the other, because a grandson is like what? A son. We're afraid of what? Wee. What is that? That the Mechaber would put it in the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Aaron. What's it all about? Now look at the bottom of the Mishnah Brura Avam. See, you test Mishnah Brura B'shvil Ayin Hara. See that? It's the Mishnah Brura and have an arrow there. You see it? It says B'shvil Ayin Hara. Now the Mishnah Brura was a cold halacha man. He didn't believe in Ouija BGs. And look what he says, Sharona. Look at that. B'shvil Ayin Hara. Footnote, you test the bottom on the right column, Mishnah Brura. Ve'ein nafke mina, doesn't matter. Bein achim mino av, achim mino aim. It doesn't matter when they're half brothers or full brothers. It doesn't matter. Even to have a different mother, they share the same father. You can't call them up because we're afraid of what? Afilu omrim. I'm reading the top column, Yehuda, and the Mishnah Brura on the left side. It's underlined. Afilu omrim shei makpidam ayin hara. Let's say the brothers say, or the father and the grandson says what? I don't care. Sit down. You don't care, but halacha cares. Isn't that amazing? Even they say the nak makpidim, the yesh machmirin afilu avim beno. And the Mishnah Brura repeats the Be'er Hatev of Aaron. We're machma even with a grandfather and a grandson. Mishim eina bisha. What does eina bisha mean? The evil eye. Wow. Now look at footnote Kaf in the Mishnah Brura. Filam echad rotzalayma afshem asikim b'kadish. I might think after Shvi you say Kaddish. So maybe that's hafsaka, and then you can call up the grandson or the brother. What? Maftir, mikol makom, you can't. Even though you're mafsik with a Kaddish, you can't call up one after the other. You hear this? Why? We're afraid of what?
Happens all the time in a bar mitzvah.
What?
Bar mitzvah, they always have the father.
So they must have skipped this halacha. No, you can't call them up. You have to have another aliyah in the middle. Kaddish doesn't work. Even though you say Kaddish after Shvi, then there's the maftir. No, Kaddish doesn't work. Since you call them up one after the other, it doesn't work. What does work? You stick in a guy that's not a relative. You stick in a cousin. A cousin twice removed. Or once removed. Even not removed. Where did he move to, right? As long as you stick in not a brother or not a grandson, it's beseder gamur. But look how far halacha codifies it, even if the brothers or the grandson or the grandfather says what? I don't believe in it. The Gabbai says, sit down, grandpa. Take a load off your feet, grandpa. What's the problem here, Rabbi Aaron? What? What's the problem? What's the difference between in-laws and outlaws? At least outlaws are wanted. Don't you get it? Ooh. Outlaws are wanted. Ooh. Look at the bottom of side number 2. What's the problem? You're showing off that your family's all Haredi. Don't draw attention to yourself. Maybe someone has a grandson that never has an earring in his ear, and Shabbos morning he's not in shul. He's hanging out somewhere, lo yaleinu, in a golden calf disco, Nebuch, and you're calling him up with his grandson. You're steching him. Where's my grandson? He's not next to me in shul. He's in the golden calf disco, lo yaleinu. You're steching him. That can have negative repercussions. Whether you like it or not, don't draw attention to yourself. Look at the Mishnah Avos Perik Bet. You see that, Aaron? Avot Perik Bet. You don't see the bottom of the page in my handwriting. The Sechta Avot Perik Bet. Ayin Hara, V'yetze Hara, Moitziin Adam in Olam, Lo Yaleinu. The evil eye and the Yetze Hara can what? Give a person before his time. How could that be? If God runs the show, how could Ayin Hara affect the person so, what's the word of him? Adversely. Stay tuned. What is this koyach that we call the Ayin Hara? You ever wonder, how come animals don't wear clothes? Remember Mr. Ed?
Sure do.
I'm dating myself. Mr. Ed never wore pants. Mr. Ed, Wilbur, don't test me. You ever wonder why animals don't wear? And Elsie the cow never wore a dress, as far as I remember. Why is that? What? Because what does God tell the prophet Micha, chapter 6? Higid lacha. I'm telling you, Yid, ma tov. What's good for you? Uma Hashem dorish mimcha. What does God want from a Yid? Micha chapter 6. Ki mishpat, do mishpat mahavas chesed, do justice and love doing acts of kindness. V'hatzneya lechet im elehecha. V'hatzneya lechet im elehecha. Walk modestly with your God. Why is tzniut up there with the ikra of Yahadut? Madua v'lama. Why is modesty the key to Judaism? Because modesty can protect the person from the Ayin Hara. An animal doesn't wear any clothes because an animal, what you see is what you get. There's nothing behind the skin. But a human being has a tzelem alehim, chelek alahai mimal. A human being has to wear modest clothes because clothes remind us, Rabbi Yaakov, that just like my shirt is not me, is my shirt me? It's only a covering. So my skin is not me either. It's only what? A covering. I've got you under my skin. What's the real me? It's not my body. That's just a covering. I'm a tzelem Elohim. I'm a chelek Elahai mimal. I'm a soul man. So therefore, clothes are so important in Judaism. Clothes remind me. They draw attention. They're just like clothes are only a covering. The body itself, Chava, is what? Don't confuse me with my covering. But a person that dresses immodestly, what's he advertising? What you see is what you get. He's no different than Elsie the cow, chas v'sholom. He doesn't realize that. If he dresses immodestly, he's saying what you see is what you get. There's nothing behind the skin. Oy, 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 what an insult. The Nebuch don't know. But it's much more than dress. It's a way of life. To behave modestly, to act modestly, that can protect the person from what? And we'll see how. We'll give some practical examples. The Rabbeinu B'chai and Klei Yokar say that Esav came to attack Yaakov with the Ayin Hara. That's why Esav took exactly 400 men, not 399, Chava, or 403. Why did Esav take 400 men? The gematria of Ayin Ra, you guessed it, 400. Ayin Ra is gematria 400. And the gematria of Yad Esav, Avram, you're good in math, the gematria of Yad Esav is also what? 400. Ooh. And that's why Ephron the Hittite, he could have demanded any price from Father Abraham. Why did he ask for Arba Meo Shekel Kesef? Why not more? because 400 is Gematria Ayin Hara. Ephron wanted to put the evil eye on Abraham. Abraham was very wealthy, and he was full of envy and jealousy. So Ephron and Esav tried to utilize the Ayin Hara. Ephron against Abraham, and Yaakov and Esav against whom? Yaakov. That's why he came with 400 men, not 401. Gematria of Ayin Hara. And Yad Esav happens to be what? 400. But they both failed. Why did they both fail? Because Abraham and Yaakov were tzenua, not just in dress. Of course it includes dress, but in their behavior, in their derech hachayim. Now we know Bilam harasha. We'll see that soon. Bilam tried to curse the Yidden with the Ayin Hara. We'll see soon. Bilam received this koyach of Ayin Hara from Esav, and he too failed. So what is this koyach of Ayin Hara? How does it work? Does it work? Now, I read to you from the Gemara in Bava Metzia that 99 out of 100 people die with the Ayin Hara. Why is that the Masechta Bava Metzia? Bava Metzia discusses Avram, damages and financial compensation. Tractate Bava Metzia, Rabbi Yaakov deals with what? Paying nizikin, paying damages and financial compensation if you damage your friend or his property. Monetary restitution for damages. So the Ramban says the reason why the Ayin Hara is mentioned in Bava Metzia, because a person can lo yaleinu damage his friend financially through Ayin Hara, and he would have to pay what? Damages. Financial compensation. Therefore, the Ayin Hara is mentioned dafka in Tractate Bava Metzia, which deals with damages and financial compensation for damages. Isn't that amazing? We'll talk. Can we talk? We'll talk. Okay? Okay. Now, what is this Ayin Hara? What are we talking about over here? And how does it work? Now, I told you about Bilam. If you look in Pashas Balak, chapter 24, you don't have it on your sheet. We're finished with the sheets. Okay, I'd like to have them back, so please don't doodle on them. We're finished with the sheets. Now it's my turn. In Bamidbar 24, Rabbi Yitzchak, Bamidbar 24, it says, Vayisa Bilam es Einav. Bilam lifted up his eyes, and he saw the Jews dwelling. So Rashi says, Vayisa Bilam es Einav. What do you mean he lifted up his eye? What does that mean? We can collect them later. You have to collect them now. You don't, not now, please. Collect them later. What do you mean he lifted up his eye? Bikesh lahachnes behen Ayin Hara. Bilam wanted to put the evil eye on the Jewish people. He lifted up his eye in Bamidbar 24. Bikesh lahachnes behen Ayin Hara. He wanted to put the evil eye on the Jewish people. And he was not able. He was not able. Why was he not able? What? Because he saw the Jews were dwelling modestly. Right? They were not peeking into each other's tent. There was no peeping toms. Everyone was happy what they have in their house. No one was looking and trying to figure out what the other guy has. So therefore, Bilam was not able to put the evil eye on the Yidden, because he saw them dwelling, each one in their own tent, modestly. The window shades were down. No one was, Yiddish zukpan an oifschnader. How do you say that, Rivka, in English? An oifschnader. Exhibitionist. The tents were not facing each other. No one was peeking into the other guy's living room to count his silverware. Right? Now this Ayin Hara, you see it throughout the Torah. In Pashas Lech Lecha, Bereshis Perek Tesayin, Rashi says, Sora echnisa Ayin Hara bibura shel Hagar. the Pila. Rashi says that Yishmael was the second pregnancy of Hagar from Abraham. Her first pregnancy, she miscarried. Look in Rashi, Genesis 16, Pasha Lech Lecha, Sarah hechnisa Ayin Hara bibura shel Hagar. Sarah put the evil eye on the fetus of what? Of Hagar v'Hipila. And she miscarried. And the Malach told Hagar, you're going to become pregnant again. Her first pregnancy, she lost because Sarah put the evil eye on Mrs. Arafat. I mean on Hagar. Now, Genesis 21, Reb Aaron. Sarah tells her husband, kick out Arafat and his mother. Kick out Yishmael and his mother. What? They'll never live in peace with us. Abraham, you're fooling yourself. You think you can divide the land? You're living in a fool's paradise, Abraham. You got to kick out Abu Mamzer. He'll never make peace with us. Women have a bina yetera. Abraham said, why not? Can't we all get along? 2 states for 2 people. Abraham wanted to live together, Rabbi Yaakov Goldman. Sarah, bina yetera. Women have a bina yetera. You're fooling yourself, Abraham. Garesh. What does Garesh mean? Transfer Arafat and his mother. Abu Mamzer, Yishmael and his mother. It'll never work. She knew better than Father Abraham. Rashi says that Yishmael was sick. Et hayeled. Af hayeled sam al shichma. The child was so sick that he couldn't walk. Yishmael was so sick that he couldn't walk. So Abraham put the sick child on Hagar's shoulder. Shechnisa basara Ayin Hara. Sarah put the evil eye on Yishmael. He was not able to walk. Abraham, the Isha Chesed, acted with utmost cruelty, sending his sick child and his concubine out in the desert. That's Isha Chesed. But God said, whatever Sarah told you, Shema b'kolah. Who decides what Chesed is? God does, not we, not Peace Now or J Street. God decides what's Chesed and what's Rachamim. We don't decide, He decides. So, Yishmael was so sick, he couldn't even walk, that Abraham put the sick child al shichma. What does that mean? On her shoulder. Shechnisa boy Sarah Ayin Hara. Sarah put the evil eye on Abu Mamzer, and he couldn't walk. Incredible. Pashas Miketz. Bereshis 42 in Rashi. B'toch habayim. Yaakov sent his 10 sons down to buy food in Mitzrayim. He told them to go b'toch habayim. What does that mean? Matminam atzman. He told the Shvatim, hide yourself. Shelo yakiram. Don't all go to the same line in passport control. Spread out, sons. Lefi shetziva Yaakov commanded them they shouldn't all enter one passport control. Each one should go bepetach acher. Why? Kidei shlo tishlot behem Ayin Hara. Yaakov was afraid that his sons might be affected by the evil eye. Shekulam noyim v'kulam giborim. All of them are what? Handsome and Rambos. Rambos and handsome. So Yaakov was afraid that his 10 sons of him might get the evil eye. And therefore he told them what? B'toich haboyim, don't stand out in the crowd. Keep a low profile. Don't all march to the same passport control. The mitzvah's eyes will bug out of his head. All you guys are brothers. All of you are Rambos. You all look like Robert Redford in his prime. Yaakov was afraid. Spread out, kindalach. Hide yourself. B'toch haboyim. Wow. In the Pasha we read yesterday, why did the Jews not allowed to be counted? Pashas Kisisa. Didn't we read it yesterday? Every Jew had to give a machtas a shekel to take the census. Why? Rashi said, Lo yibhem negev. There shouldn't be a plague. Why is there a plague if you count Yidden? Bifkot otam. Chas v'sholem. Rashi, shaminyan shalet bo ayin hara. Lo yaleinu, if you take a census but a head count, lo yaleinu, the ayin hara can break out. V'adeva bo aleim, lo yaleinu, the plague will fall on Arafat. K'moy b'mei David. We find in the days of King David, he counted the Yidden, and a plague broke out. Huh? So Rashi says you're not allowed to count Jews, because if you count Jews, chas v'sholem, you can open up, I think it's called a can of worms. What's another name for a can of worms? Ayin Hara. Another name for can of worms we don't want to open up is called Ayin Hara. So didn't King David learn this Rashi, Sharona? Didn't King David learn this Rashi? Why did he have a head count? So Ramban explains King David thought that the fear of Ayin Hara is only in Chutz La'aretz. Once you come to Pisgat Zev, we don't have to be afraid of the Ayin Hara. David was wrong. Even in Eretz Yisrael, you have to be afraid of the Ayin Hara. David made a terrible mistake. He thought the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael would protect one from the Ayin Hara, and therefore he made a head count of the IDF. Bad mistake. Bad mistake that King David made. And that we just read in the Pasha, Salachosh Nei Luchot. Right? The second tablets, Avraham, God was taking no chances. No one can come up with you. Unlike the first tablets, there was great publicity, a great big show. I think it's called the Thunder and Light Show. And the Ayin Hara from the EU and the UN, Sound and Light Show. Thank you. So God said, no. Ein lecha yofa min hatzniut. There's nothing more beautiful than what? Tzniut doesn't only mean in dress. Of course it means in dress. But Chav, it means much more than that. In the way a person behaves, the way he talks. Jews don't call press conferences. That's not the Jewish way to brag, to boast, to dress ostentatious, even though you're wearing a modest dress. But to dress like wild colors, why are you drawing attention to yourself? We don't want that. The UN was jealous. So therefore, the second tablets were given, Avram Berkowitz, in total isolation. Just to Moshe. Therefore, the second tablets were never destroyed. We still have them. They're buried underneath the Temple Mount. The Mishnah Yuma, chapter 5 says, the second tablets are still intact. They're waiting for the Messiah underneath the catacombs of the temple. How come they were never destroyed of Yaakov Golden? Because the evil eye couldn't affect them, because they were given what? Shh, shh, shh. Quietly, sei still. Quietly.
Is that where the Arabs are digging?
1 second, yes. Moshe sent the Meraglim. Great fanfare. The Torah puts up their names in billboards. All chief rabbis, PhD doctors. Great fanfare, great publicity. The mission of the Meraglim ended in disaster. 40 years later, Yeshua ben Nun also sends Meraglim, Sharona, but this time he sent them Cheresh. What does Cheresh mean? Rivka. When I was a kid, we used to say on the QT. You never heard that expression? What does on the QT mean? Shh. Yeshua ben Nun learned from his Rebbe. You know why the Meraglim that Moses sent was a failure? Ayin Hara. Publicity, great fanfare, press conferences, chief rabbi from this tribe, chief rabbi doctor from that tribe. The Ayin Hara, lo yaleinu. 40 years later, Avraham Yeshua ben Nun learned from his Rebbe, so he also sent spies. This time he sent, what does Cheresh mean? Shh. Anonymously. Therefore, Yeshua ben Nun's mission was a success. If you want to succeed in life, what's the key? don't brag, don't boast, don't call any press conferences. Shh, shh. And therefore, the second tablets were given what, Alfie? I think it's called on the QT. South Africa, they don't say that? On the QT, on the QT. Right? So Bilam was not effective. Because Vaya Yisrael Shochen L'Shvatav. He saw Kol Shevet, like Aaron said, Kol Shevet Shochen La'atzmo, Ve'eino Muruvin, She'eino Pischeyen Mechavanim, Zeh Keneged Zeh, Shelo Yatzis Atoch Ol Chavero. No one was bragging, no one was boasting. Each Jew was satisfied with his own little modest tent. He wasn't bragging, he wasn't showing off, he was not mixing in other people's business. Rivka, gid you a kochleffel. I think it's called a kochleffel. Never heard that? Stirring the pot, a yenta. A koch, what?
Dissension.
Shelo yatzit l'toch ol chavero. And Rashi's based on Tractate Bava Basra, page 80. Shelo yira echad ma'anase bebeit chavero. The Yidden in the Midbar, they were not interested what's cooking in Yedem's pot. What do you have for dinner tonight? What's in your break front? What's the latest silver crystal chandelier? Do you have a chandelier in your bathroom? Do you have golden faucets in your bathroom? Why not? Oh, imidas snius, says the Gemara. Therefore, the Ayin Hara of Wild Bill Bilam, Wild Bill was not effective. Oh. So what's the message? Don't be in the spotlight. That's the insurance policy against what? Ayin Hara. And the Ramban says something incredible. Remember we said why Ayin Hara is mentioned in Tractate Bov Metzia, which deals with what? Damages. You can damage a person by what? Burning down his house. You can damage a person, lo yaleinu, by putting down the Ayin Hara on him. And Issa Doraita, says the Ramban. Just like when you burn down someone's house, you have to pay him for the physical damage, says the Ramban. When lo yaleinu, you put the evil eye on somebody and you damage him or his property, you have to pay him financial compensation. It's Issa Doraita, and therefore it's mentioned in which tractate? But Metzia, which deals with damages and financial compensation for damages. Unbelievable. That's a good question. You need the Sanhedrin, what? But the Hezik Ayin Hara Issa Doraita, says the Ramban. Wow. This idea is in Pash, it's throughout the Torah. In Pashas Bahaloischa. In chapter 12 in Bamidbar, the Torah calls Tzipora Ishi Kushis, a black woman. Says Rashi Tzipora. She wasn't really black. She was from Midian. Why does the Torah call a Yehuda Lev Isha Kushis, a black woman? Says Rashi, because she was so beautiful, Nikre Kushit, because she was so beautiful, the Torah calls her what? Black. That's what the Black Panthers got it. Black is beautiful. Black is beautiful. Don't you get it? Tzipporah was from Midian. She wasn't black. So why does the Torah call her what? Black? Says Rashi, she was so beautiful, the Torah was afraid that Tzipporah is going to get what? So the Torah calls her what? Black? Says Rashi, in Bamidbar 12, Ka'adam ha'koires benoina kushi. Like a person calls his beautiful child black, Kedesh la yishlad bo ayin hara. So the evil eye should what? Not attach itself. When I was a little kid, I was a cute baby. I saw pictures. And my grandmother would call me Miskite. Why would my grandmother call me Miskite? Pooh, Miskite. How do you say Miskite in English? She said, you ugly child. Mama, Bubba, ich bin nicht ugly. Bubba, why am I ugly? Shah still, Mies. Why did she do that, Rabbi Yaakov? Because my Bubba learned this Rashi. What does that mean? To protect from the evil eye, you call a beautiful child or a beautiful woman miskite. Black is black. The Torah was afraid that Zipporah was going to get what? An evil eye. She was so pretty, Miss Universe, and therefore the Torah called her Miss Ugly. Ooh, I don't know. What, Shirley?
Hypothetically speaking, someone shows off and someone regrets it. And that
Stay tuned. Okay, stay tuned. How to prevent the evil eye? Huh? How to prevent the evil eye? The Torah tells me how. Rashi says, Aaron HaKohen, he became the high priest. He didn't change the avoda. He didn't change. What do you mean he didn't change? If God would tell me to do the avoda, would I change? Why is the Torah praising Aaron? He didn't change. What's the message? Despite the great honor and glory he received, he remained unchanged. He didn't act like what? He can't put his hat on in the morning. He wasn't puffed up. When a person receives honors and glory, act like Aaron. Don't change. What do you mean don't change? Don't change your behavior. Don't brag. Don't boast. You can put your hat on in the morning. Still say hello to your neighbors. Not who are you to talk to me? To protect Aaron HaKohen didn't change. Not he didn't change the service. That's not a trick. Why would he? He himself remained unchanged. His personality was the same. He remained the same humble person he was before he became the great big kahuna. So what's the message? Don't play up the beauty. Don't create jealousy by showing off and flaunting. Be a tsanua. Don't draw attention to yourself. Don't brag. Don't boast. And don't flaunt. We have to keep a low profile, all right? Not just, what? Not to arouse jealousy or kina v'shina. How does it work? If you flaunt whatever you have in front of someone who does not have it, whatever it is, it arouses jealousy and hurt feelings, which can harm the person who is flaunting, chas v'sholem. He's being mitzar the other person without realizing it. He can lo yaleinu, bring down on him the Ayin Hara, lo yaleinu. Now what's the Ayin Hara, Avram? In other words, it's a midas hadin. The Ayin Hara, it's all God, but it's the midas hadin. Don't flaunt, cover up, be modest and low-key, avoid publicity, because bragging and drawing attention to yourself can lo yaleinu, arouse the midas hadin. Wow. We say every Friday night in Eishes Chayil Meyimtza, Avram, Eishes Chayil Meyimtza, that's Mishlei 31. We say the Eishes Chayil, Vatokam Ba'od Laila. She gets up, but it's still night. The Balabusta gets up, but it's still night. What does that mean? She's an insomniac. She can't sleep. No, she's an Eishes Chayil, but she does it Ba'od Laila. She doesn't brag. She doesn't boast. Doesn't mean that she's an insomniac, Avram. No. Laila means what? It's covered up. She's an Eishes Chayil, well-accomplished woman, but she doesn't advertise in the Jewish press. She does it Ba'od Laila. It's covered up. Don't brag and don't boast. Wow. Because lo yaleinu, bragging and boasting can open up a can of worms. In other words, Ayin Hara. In other words, the midas hadin lo yaleinu. How does that work? Huh? God conducts himself with us with midas harachim and midas hadin. If we are keeping a low profile, we're acting acting modestly with tsunua in dress and behavior, then God's midas harachamim will give us freebies, even though we don't deserve it. But if chas v'shalom we flaunt and brag and cause hurt feelings to others, lo yaleinu, I don't want to say, Ayin Hara is really an audit. Who can withstand an audit from the IRS? Huh? If they're going to look, they're going to find something. So Ayin Hara, you're opening up a can of worms. It's all God. But God reacts to our behavior. Hashem tzilcha. It's a posuk in Tehillim 121. Hashem tzilcha. God is your shadow. What do you mean God is your shadow? Shadow acts the way you act. You're conducting yourself with modesty and tsunua, then the midas harachamim will give you freebies. But if God forbid a person what? Takes unnecessary risks and chances, or brags and he boasts, flaunts his possession, then he draws attention to himself, which arouses emotional hurt and jealousy, and it causes the midas harachamim to switch over to what? Lo yaleinu to din. Avra, what's another name for midas hadin? Ayin Hara. It's all God. Which hat does God wear? You make the call. Isn't that incredible, Yehuda? Which hat God wears determines by our behavior. It's frightening. It's all God. But now, through his conduct, the person, so to speak, causes God, chas v'shalom, to examine his stick extra careful. And who can withstand an audit? Under the midas hadin, there's a pasuk in Keheles Adam, Ein tzadik ba'aretz, asher yasa tov v'lo yachta. Every human being is what? A sinner. But as long as you're keeping a low profile, you're not bragging, you're not boasting, then midas harachamim will protect you, even though you're not worthy, because a loving father will look away. But if you cause hurt and anguish by flaunting your possessions in front of someone who doesn't have, you're causing him anger and anguish and jealousy. You are forcing God, chas v'shalom, to switch chas v'shalom from midas harachamim to what? What's another name for midas hadin, Yehuda? Ayin Hara. We learned a great thing today, that it's all God, but God reacts to our actions. It's a pasuk in Tehillim 121 says about Shem Tov. Hashem tzilcha. God is your shadow. Avram, your shadow acts the way you do. Wow. What? The Tzalel, right? So, we've learned a great thing this afternoon. What have we learned, Chava? How can a person die before his time? What does Rashi mean? How can a person die before his time? 99 people out of 100 die from Ayin Hara. It's all God. But by flaunting and boasting and bragging and being ostentatious, they are causing midas harachamim, chas v'shalom, to what? To change the midas hadin. What's another name for midas hadin? Ayin Hara. So it's all God. So God can write down for a person on Rosh Hashanah, this person should have a wonderful, healthy year. But chas v'shalom, if a person what? Brags and boasts and flaunts and taunts and mocks. Right? You see my new Rolex? You see my new Rolex? It only costs $7,000. You don't have one, do you? Too bad.
That's a cheap one.
Huh? $7,000. What do you have, a cheap imitation for $12? Lo yaleinu, that person is bringing down midas hadin on himself. He's calling for an audit. Who can withstand an audit? So Ayin Hara, it's all God. But the way he behaves depends on our behavior. So therefore God tells the prophet Micha, what does God want? Hatzne lechet, Right? What does God want more than anything? Hatzmei lechatim alecha. Be modest with God and with people. Then Midas Harachim will protect you and give you freebies that you don't deserve. But if you're immodest in dress and behavior, you're calling unnecessary attention to yourself. You're bragging, you're boasting. You're causing anguish to others without even realizing it. You're opening up a can of worms. What's another name for can of worms? Ayin Hara. Another name? Midas Hadin. It's all God. But God determined you should live it out the year with health and wealth. But if you flaunt and you shtech somebody, how do you say that in English? Shtech somebody, needle him by flaunting and bragging and boasting, lo yaleinu lifnei zman means before God wanted to. You're forcing God's hand, chas v'sholem, to switch from rachamim to din. But it's all God. How does God behave with us? You make the call. Yes, Rivka.
To go back to the beginning.
Go ahead.
That you said the luchot were broken because of Ayin Hara.
Right.
But God put on the whole show.
That's right. Didn't God know what's going to happen?
Yes.
Of course he knew, but he wanted to teach us, Abraham. Kinderlach. Look what a tremendous production will do. It even affected my luchos. God was teaching us by example. He knew what's going to happen. But he says, Kinderlach, look at the effects of the Ayin Hara, even on my holy luchos. Kinderlach, take it to heart. It was a graphic example. I think it's called show and tell. Show and tell. Ein lecha yofe min hatzniut. Maybe you won't believe me, said God. I'll show you.
So if we had accepted it with
What?
if we had accepted it with Tzniut, then
Right.
that Ayin Hara
We said, UN in your face. EU, check me out. Look what God did for me. You guys are a dirtbag. You're a dirtbag. What? That's the Ayin Hara. It's all. The flaunting and the bragging and the boasting caused this terrible Ayin Hara. Therefore, Moshe's Meraglim was a failure. Tremendous press conference, Avra Berkowitz, remember? It gave the chief rabbi, doctor, all their names and titles. Ayin Hara. 40 years later, Yeshua ben Nun learned the lesson. He sent them cheresh. It doesn't even say their names. So if you want a mission, Avram, you want a project to be successful in life? What's the secret? Shh, shh, shh. Don't be an Aufschneider. How do you say that in English? An Aufschneider. You know Yiddish? How do you say it in English? Aufschneider. Show off, thank you. Many people have that urge, right? They buy a new car, they drive around the block 9 times, bang, 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 bang. Haunting, check out my BMW. What do you got, a bicycle? Got the BMW, got to show off, right? All right? Got a new hot rod. Check it out, right? Right? Thank you very much. Shkoyach, shkoyach.